So in this deep dive, we are deconstructing a really fascinating source document titled Al-Fatiha Divine Architecture.
Yes.
We are going to deconstruct Surah Al-Fatiha, which is the opening chapter of the Quran.
The very beginning, yeah.
And for those of you listening who are deeply familiar with this space, the context here is just massive. I mean, this was the absolute first complete surah revealed to the Prophet Muhammad.
It holds so much weight.
Just look at the titles it holds, right? Surah Al-Fatiha, which means the key. Al-Quran, the mother of the Quran. Asas al-Quran, the foundation. Shafi'i, the healer.
Al-Kafiyya, the sufficient.
Right. So, okay, let's unpack this, because our sources make it abundantly clear that this isn't just a simple recitation to kick off a prayer. It's a highly engineered code.
Right. But to actually understand that code, the source material insists we first have to understand the hardware it was designed to run on.
Meaning the human mind.
Exactly. Human consciousness. The text basically maps out the mind in 4 distinct phases of realization.
Okay, walk us through those.
So it starts with what it calls phase 1, the dormant state, or fitra.
Fitra, right.
The underlying premise here is that every single human being is born with this innate, uncorrupted orientation toward the divine. Like it is a pre-installed baseline.
Right, like the factory settings on a phone.
Yeah, perfect analogy. Then, as a person grows and their cognitive abilities develop, they enter phase 2, which is baseline realization.
Okay.
The argument in the sources is that an uncorrupted human intellect, just by observing the mechanics of the universe and human existence, will naturally deduce 2 things.
Just through pure logic.
Yes. First, that there's one creator behind the design. And second, that there must be an afterlife with accountability.
Because perfect justice obviously doesn't happen in our current world, right?
Exactly. Which brings us to a massive philosophical crossroads with phase 3, the catalyst.
Wait, hang on. I'm going to push back on this premise right here.
Go for it.
If phase 2 means my intellect is already powerful enough to, naturally deduce that there is a creator and an afterlife, then why do I even need phase 3?
You're asking why we need divine revelation.
Yeah. I mean, haven't I solved the puzzle? Can't human logic just figure out the rest of the equation on its own?
That is the ultimate question, right? Why is revelation even necessary? And the source document introduces this brilliant concept to answer it called the ceiling of human intellect.
The ceiling. Okay.
Yeah, so if we look at the broader sweep of history, the intellect can absolutely find God independently. But it inevitably crashes into a ceiling when it tries to create a balanced society.
Because it can't navigate those highly complex human dynamics without, an objective anchor.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Because the intellect is attached to a human being, and we have inherent self-interest. We have bias.
Right.
The sources outline 3 specific, really volatile domains where the intellect just simply cannot find the perfect center point.
What's the first one?
The first is gender dynamics. The human intellect, relying solely on sociology or philosophy, it struggles to find the perfect equilibrium of rights and responsibilities between men and women.
Because of the inherent biological and social differences.
Right. Human-engineered laws tend to swing wildly between extremes. You get systemic oppression on one end and complete erasure of distinct identities on the other.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And the second domain where we hit that ceiling is the eternal tension between the state and the individual.
Oh, absolutely.
This one is so visible when you look at political history. It's that constant friction between total suffocating state control, like authoritarianism, and absolute destructive individual freedom.
Which is essentially anarchy.
Right, exactly.
Human political systems, they just oscillate back and forth like a pendulum. A society gets tired of chaos, so they elect a strongman.
Then the strongman becomes a tyrant.
Yes. So the society rebels, dismantles the state, and we're right back to chaos. We never settle perfectly in the middle because whoever holds the power writes the laws to favor their own survival.
That makes so much sense. And the third domain where the intellect fails is capital versus labor.
Yep. The economic friction.
Right. Balancing the right of capital to generate profit against the right of labor to receive fair, dignified compensation.
And without a higher navigational blueprint, society inevitably trends toward, extreme exploitation by the wealthy.
Or complete economic stagnation where there's no incentive to produce anything.
Exactly. So because we cannot locate that objective, perfect center point on our own, we require phase 4.
Active faith.
Right, active faith. This is where revelation activates that dormant consciousness and provides a highly specific navigational trajectory. The text refers to it as Sirat al-Mustaqim, or leading guidance.
Navigational trajectory is like the perfect way to frame it. Think of this like navigating a spacecraft to Mars for you listening.
Oh, I like this analogy.
Yeah, you're plotting this incredibly long, complex journey, right? At your origin point on Earth, a 1-degree shift in your trajectory seems completely inconsequential. It's microscopic.
Barely registers.
Right. The source calls this stepping onto a pagdandy, which is like a tiny little side path off the main road. But over the span of millions of miles of empty space, that one microscopic deviation means you miss the entire planet.
Yeah, and the sources detail this exact phenomenon. They call it the physics of deviation. And it unfolds in 3 distinct stages.
Okay, break those down.
Stage 1 is at the origin, the divergence. This, your spacecraft analogy, it's that microscopic shift. It feels harmless, maybe even intellectually stimulating in the present moment.
Right, it doesn't feel like you're lost yet.
Exactly. But that leads to stage 2, which is along the red line, the progression. Over the timeline of a human life, or even the lifespan of an entire civilization, moving forward on a slightly misaligned vector accelerates your distance from the truth.
Yeah, the geometry of it just means the further you travel, the wider the gap becomes relative to the true path.
Which inevitably leads to stage 3, at the destination, the ultimate gap.
Total failure.
Yep. What began as a tiny, seemingly harmless shift results in a complete failure to reach the destination. The intended balance is entirely lost.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this? The big takeaway from this physics of deviation is that it explains exactly why the believer must constantly petition for guidance.
You don't just ask for the path once.
Right. You don't ask once and assume you're good for life. The repetition of the surah acts as an ongoing, essential navigational recalibration. It is literally the spacecraft's computer constantly firing microthrusters to correct that 1-degree drift.
And to petition for that constant recalibration effectively, the text utilizes this perfectly balanced structural preamble.
The sources call it the master scale.
Right, the Tarazu.
Visualizing a classic, perfectly balanced brass scale is so helpful to grasp the architecture here. So what exactly are we putting on these scales?
Okay, so on the left side of the scale, you have God's rights. This encompasses theology, pure praise, absolute sovereignty. On the right side of the scale, you have humanity's need. This is our petition for guidance, for clarity of the path.
And right in the middle.
Right in the middle, locking the 2 massive sides together, is the center, the fulcrum. It acts as the covenant.
Okay, let's unpack that left side first, the anatomy of gratitude.
Yeah, this part is amazing.
Because the surah opens with the word alhamdulillah, which is usually just translated simply as all praise is for God, right? But the source reveals that the root word hamd is a highly specific, very dense linguistic synthesis of 2 entirely different concepts.
The Arabic language is incredibly precise here. So the first concept inside hamd is tarif.
Tarif, okay.
This is praise triggered by objective, inherent beauty or perfection. Imagine you're standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon, or, looking at a stunning nebula through a telescope.
You're just in awe.
Right, you praise it because of its inherent majesty. But that nebula requires absolutely no personal benefit to you. It doesn't pay your rent.
Yeah, it doesn't heal your sickness. You just admire its objective quality.
Exactly. Now, the second concept within hamd is shukr. This is gratitude triggered transactionally because you received a direct personal benefit.
Like a favor?
Yeah, someone pulls you out of a burning building or just anonymously pays off your massive debt. You feel shukr. It's a profound transactional debt of gratitude.
So it's very personal.
Yes. And the synthesis of these 2, al-hamd, creates a unique psychological state. It acknowledges infinite objective perfection combined with immense personal gratitude.
Wow.
Because praising without gratitude is just detached admiration. And gratitude without praise is just transactional business.
Right.
Hamd combines awe and debt, specifically because it's attributed to the Rab, the master, who actively nurtures, sustains, and guarantees your growth.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because right after establishing that immense dual-layered gratitude, the text introduces the dimensions of divine mercy with the words Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim.
Yes.
And the linguistic morphology here, like the physical metaphors the sources use to explain these 2 words, are just mind-blowing.
They really are. Let's break down those mechanisms, starting with Ar-Rahman. The sources metaphorically describe this as the ocean.
The ocean.
Linguistically, the root structure denotes an intense, explosive, stormy, and immediate state of mercy. The Arabic term is hejan.
Hejan.
Right. It's overwhelming, it's vast, turbulent, and it universally encompasses all creation right now, in the present moment.
Regardless of who or what they are.
Exactly. It's the mercy that keeps the universe running. It keeps lungs breathing and hearts beating, even for those who completely deny the Creator.
It's a literal storm of mercy. You couldn't escape it, even if you tried.
And then you have the second dimension, Ar-Rahim, which is metaphorically described as the river.
Okay, how is that different?
Its morphology denotes continuous, unbroken, permanent continuity, or dawam. It's a calm, perpetually flowing river.
So unlike the universal storm of Ar-Rahman.
Right. Ar-Rahim represents mercy that is specialized. It's perpetual and eternal, specifically manifesting in the ultimate timeline, the afterlife.
So you have the chaotic, all-encompassing ocean of right now paired with the calm, targeted, eternal river of the forever.
It's perfectly balanced.
The balance of that left side is staggering. And that perfectly balanced weight leads us right into the center of the scale, the grammatical fulcrum.
Which brings us to a brilliant pivot in syntax.
Yeah, explain this, because up until the exact center of the surah, the text is speaking about God in the third person.
Right. Praise be to God, the Lord of the worlds, the most compassionate, the most merciful, master of the day of judgment. The psychology is purely observational.
But then right at the fulcrum, the text suddenly shifts to speaking directly to him in the second person.
The grammar actually pivots.
Yes.
It's a shift to the phrase Iyyaka Na'budu, which translates to "you alone we worship."
What's fascinating about this is that the standard Arabic structure for this thought would normally be Nabuduka.
Which literally translates to "we worship you." But linguistically, that standard structure leaves a back door open.
How so?
It implies "we worship you." But we might also worship some other things on the side.
Ooh, like it leaves room for the worship of money, ego, status, or power.
Exactly. But the Qur'anic shift to Iyyaka Na'budu, it forces the object pronoun ahead of the verb. It's called the muf'ul shift.
I love geeking out over this. By placing the object first, you alone we worship, the grammar itself acts as an ironclad covenant.
The sources refer to it as the Grammar of Exclusivity. The door to any other authority or object of worship is permanently sealed shut by the syntax.
It's basically a legally binding contract made entirely out of linguistic structure.
It really is. And that grammatical lock bridges us over to the right side of the scale.
Humanity's need.
Yes. Once the covenant is locked, we make the petition for the straight path. And to help us understand what happens when we attempt to navigate that path, the text categorizes humanity into three navigational archetypes.
Based on their relationship with this truth.
Exactly. The first archetype is the favored, or anamta alayhim. These are the individuals who recognize the truth and submitted to it.
They have clarity of purpose.
Right. This archetype includes prophets, martyrs, the righteous. It represents the baseline of spiritual and navigational success.
Okay. Then you have the second archetype, the wrathful, or magdubi alayhim.
Yeah.
And these are people who recognize the truth perfectly. They saw the path clearly, they understood the mandate, but consciously rejected it.
And the root cause here isn't ignorance.
No, it's arrogance, jealousy, or malice. They knew the truth and fought it anyway.
And finally, the third archetype is the estray, or deline. These are people who are lost from the truth, often despite having really good intentions.
Like they just wander off.
They wander astray due to genuine ignorance, getting lost in the philosophical search, or through extreme boundary-breaking emotion, which the text calls gulu.
Right. Now, it's vital to note here, for you listening, when the source document maps out these archetypes, it uses historical examples to illustrate these psychological states.
Yes, it does.
For instance, it points to historical factions of the Israelites to represent the wrathful, as groups who possessed prophethood but repeatedly rejected the divine mandate out of malice.
And it points to early Christians to represent the astray.
Right, illustrating how profound love for Jesus escalated into an extreme emotion, an over-veneration that elevated a prophet to divinity. Now, to be absolutely clear for you listening, we are strictly reporting how the original source document categorizes these historical groups to illustrate psychological states of rejection or extreme emotion.
Right.
As we deconstruct this, we are looking strictly at that architectural blueprint. We are absolutely not taking theological or political sides here.
No, of course not. The focus in the text is entirely on the mechanisms of how human beings either accept truth, reject it out of ego, or lose it through unregulated emotion.
Exactly. So with this entire structural, grammatical, and psychological blueprint laid out, how does a person actually operationalize this text in reality?
Because we know it's not just meant to be analyzed in a deep dive or read in a study hall.
Right. It is meant to be lived, specifically in the daily prayer.
Yes. And there's this historical decree that says, there is no prayer without the opening of the book, meaning Al-Fatiha.
Which actually resulted in 3 distinct jurisprudential approaches, right?
Yeah, 3 distinct schools of law regarding how to operationalize it when you're praying in a congregation behind an imam. It just highlights how deep the legal philosophy of the text goes.
It's incredible how one single rule creates 3 vastly different physical applications just based on how the scholars interpreted the mechanism of the covenant.
Precisely. So first you have the Hanafi school, which advocates for absolute silence.
Okay, what's their logic?
Their philosophical view is that the follower never recites Al-Fatiha behind the imam. The imam acts as an ambassador. His recitation carries the weight for the entire collective, making individual recitation redundant.
Interesting.
Then you have the Maliki school, which takes the middle path of contextual engagement. If the imam is reciting aloud, the follower listens in total silence, because the act of active listening is considered participation.
Oh, okay.
But if the imam is reciting silently, then the follower must engage the code and recite it themselves.
Got it. And then the Shafi'i school takes the approach of absolute necessity.
Right.
For them, you cannot outsource the covenant. The follower must recite Al-Fatiha in every single unit of prayer, completely, regardless of whether the imam is reading aloud or silently. The individual must engage the linguistic lock themselves.
But, whichever school of law a person follows, the true operational power of the text is really revealed in what the sources call the Hadith Qudsi framework.
The interactive blueprint.
Yes, this is the staggering realization that Surah Al-Fatiha is not a monologue delivered into the void.
Not at all. The prayer is literally divided into halves between the creator and the servant. It's this real-time interactive architecture.
As the human recites each line, the creator responds in real time.
That's wild. Give us an example.
So when the servant says, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, God responds, my servant has praised me.
Wow.
When the servant says, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, God responds, my servant has extolled me. It is a continuous feedback loop.
And when the servant reaches that grammatical fulcrum we talked about.
Right, Iyyaka Na'budu, God declares, this is a covenant between me and my servant.
So what does this all mean for you? If you are standing there knowing that every single syllable you utter is being immediately met with a divine response, I mean, it completely shatters the concept of a mindless ritual.
It changes everything.
The ultimate goal described in the sources is the mirage, the ultimate ascension. When you understand it not as recitation, but as a reciprocal dialogue, the prayer transforms.
To recite it with complete, overwhelming consciousness is to step out of linear time entirely.
You enter into a direct, unmediated conversation with the creator of the universe. The veil of the material world is basically lifted.
You are no longer just existing in the mundane progression of seconds and minutes. You are actively engaging with the eternal present.
It is an incredible journey we've just taken through these sources. I mean, we have gone from the innate, dormant state of human consciousness, that pre-installed Fitra, all the way up to the ceiling of our intellect, where we realize our inherent biases prevent us from balancing society without an anchor.
Yeah, we map the geometry of the physics of deviation.
With this tiny 1-degree drifts, we balance the master scales of objective gratitude and overwhelming stormy mercy, locked it all in with a grammatical pivot of exclusivity, and finally unlocked a mechanism designed to lift a human being entirely out of linear time.
And yeah, if we connect all of this to the bigger picture, it leaves us with something quite profound to consider long after we finish this discussion.
What's that?
Well, think about the concept of stepping out of linear time through deeply intentional language.
Okay.
We just saw how highly specific ancient linguistic shifts, like moving a single object pronoun ahead of a verb to create an ironclad covenant, can theoretically alter a human's entire experience of reality, time, and the divine.
Right.
This raises a crucial question for all of us today. What does that say about the incredibly careless, rapid-fire way we use language and communication in our hyper-connected modern digital lives?
Oh, that is a great point. We fire off texts. We consume infinite scrolling content without a second thought.
Exactly, without a second thought to the syntax of our own minds. Are we inadvertently larking ourselves into the anxieties of linear time simply by how thoughtlessly we speak and communicate?
That is a brilliant point to end on. If a single deeply intentional sentence can lift you out of time, what are our thousands of thoughtless daily words locking us into? We hope this deep dive into the architecture of Al-Fatiha has given you a completely new lens. Keep questioning the structure behind the everyday things you encounter. Remember, sometimes the things we pass by every single day aren't just rituals. They might just be the key you've been holding all along.